Hey, welcome back! In today's video, I'm going to be picking out my December book through Amazon First Reads. Let's go! So last month I was not pleased with my choice that I picked. I chose the kind of romance pick, and it was called Between the Lines. And I tried reading it. I got about halfway through and it was just boring. So I was kind of disappointed by that. And I think it's probably because last month I was just romantic book, we're done. I'm just gonna pick that one. So I think that this month I'm going to try to do a little bit more research before I just make my impulse pick on another romance book. I want to actually maybe read the synopsises versus what just Amazon has for their little blurb. Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe if you want more book videos. Okay, so if you don't know, Amazon First Reads is a benefit of being an Amazon Prime member. So it's editor picks of books that are going to be being released the next month. So for example, these books that are being listed aren't actually out to the general public yet. So it's a pretty cool program. You get to read a book before it's even come out, and they just give it to you for free. Okay, so this month, let's see. So starting out, we have a true crime book, Murder at Teal's Pond. Hazel Drew and the mystery that inspired Twin Peaks. Two people who enjoy Twin Peaks. They've been writing and broadcasting the show for years. When they learned that Laura Palmer, the victim at the heart of the show, was inspired by a real woman, Hazel Drew, they became fascinated by Hazel's unsolved mystery, determined to find out what exactly happened to her in 1908. So I do enjoy listening to true crime podcasts on road trips. So let's see. I'm just gonna look this up on Goodreads real quick. So it only has three reviews so far, or 29 ratings. Oh, it's not even at 3 stars, so that's not great. But again, it doesn't have that many ratings. Brilliantly researched and re-investigation into the nearly forgotten century-old murder that inspired one of the most seductive mysteries in the history of television and film. In 1908, Hazel Drew was found floating in a pond in Sand Lake, New York. The unsolved murder inspired rumors, speculation, ghost stories, and almost a century later, the phenomenon of Twin Peaks. So I've never seen Twin Peaks, so I'm not oh my gosh, super excited about that. I haven't seen it, so I don't really like watching true crime things. It gives me nightmares. I'm okay with listening to them. I think it's the visuals that kind of mess me up. So I think reading about it would be fine, but I don't know if I'm super interested. Okay, so the next one is a historical fiction, Half in Shadow. The cover art is awesome. Love the light going down. That looks super cool. It's a devastating account of a 16-year-old British soldier during World War I who, injured and suffering from shell shock, wandered away from the trenches. What unfolded after he was arrested for desertion haunted Gemma, and from that seed grew Half in Shadow. Okay, so at the center of the book lies a love story. Like that. Between two characters who have lost so much, Josephine works for the Belgian resistance, desperate to protect what's left of her family. Arthur, a British soldier caught behind enemy lines, has no home to return to. They find solace in each other, but the war makes it nearly impossible for them to stay together. Okay, so 19 ratings so far, 4.21. That's pretty good for the few people who have read/rated it. From the best-selling author of In a Field of Blue. Haven't heard of that. Okay, so this synopsis provides a little bit more than what the editor synopsis provided. So it looks like with this one, it centers on Josephine and then also Franz and Arthur. So it looks like Franz is a German officer remorseful for the casualties of the war, offers her protection and opportunity. These two men from opposing sides will open her heart and test her loyalties. So a little bit of a love triangle going on. In a country deprived of freedom, she will make an impossible choice, one that will forever impact the family she cherishes and the man she loves. Okay, the next one is a family drama, The Intangible. When author C.J. Washington first heard his father tell the story of a woman diagnosed with a mysterious condition called pseudocyesis, it immediately sparked his imagination. What would cause a person to experience the symptoms of pregnancy without being pregnant? Oh, that sounds interesting. In The Intangible, Amanda Jackson has suffered a miscarriage, but her body pretends otherwise, leading doctors to diagnose her with phantom pregnancy. With her marriage strained to its limits, Amanda turns to neuroscientist Patrick Davis for answers, but as Amanda comes to find out, Patrick and his wife Marissa are experiencing an unimaginable loss of their own. Okay, so 58 ratings so far, 4.29, that's pretty good. Same kind of thing, doctors tell her otherwise, she believes she's pregnant. Her diagnosis is rare and mysterious. Yeah, never heard of it. Patrick understands the strange twists and turns of the human mind better than anyone, but as he spirals ever deeper into Amanda's illness, his own home life crumbles as his wife struggles to cope with her own loss. As the two couples confront the fraught intersection of science, death, and human emotion, they venture into the darkest corners of each other's lives. What they find there could change them forever. Okay, so the next one is a thriller, No Way Back, an adrenaline-filled story with a powerful new detective. Jack McNeil. McNeil is a type of NYPD detective who stands out. He is known in his department's internal affairs for bringing down the corrupt cops of New York City, until he is suddenly thrown under the lens of investigation when the body of his estranged wife Carolyn is found in Washington, D.C. As McNeil delves deeper into Carolyn's disappearance, he discovers that her work as a political journalist has led her to investigate an eerily similar disappearance of a D.C. socialite years earlier. Jack McNeil #1. It's going to be a series. So 96 ratings out of 4 star. That's pretty good. But I'm not really interested in the crime drama type books. It totally sounds like something that would be on ABC or something, like one of those cop drama shows. To avenge Carolyn's death, Jack embarks on a journey to the darkest recesses of power. Suspects abound, from haunted special forces soldiers to ex-CIA to the president's own body man. Okay, book club fiction, The Taste of Ginger. Okay, Indian-American lawyer living in Angeles, working her way up the corporate ladder. After she falls in love with a white man, she finds herself on the outside of even her own family. When her brother and sister-in-law are in an accident while in India for a cousin's wedding, she rushes back the city of her birth for the first time as an adult. Surrounded by the sights, smells, and sounds of a place, a culture that are both familiar and unknown, she finds herself questioning the life and values she left behind in LA. She also begins to understand more about her parents' choice to move to America, the hardships they faced since, and everything they left behind in India, all while gaining a new appreciation for land she now is really getting to know. That actually sounds pretty good. I like when books take us to somewhere, a different setting, kind of unfamiliar, and you get to learn about it and get to see it through the character's eyes. Okay, so far this has 67 ratings and a 4.6. Oh, that's pretty high. Okay, so let's see if this gives us anything different. Okay, so this says she never meant to tear her family apart. All she did was fall in love with a white Christian carnivore instead of a conventional Indian boy. Years later, with her parents not speaking to her, that's sad, and her controversial relationship in tatters, so they aren't together. So so this is a finding herself thing. So I'm assuming that they're not together anymore, and she goes here alone, where she'll have to face her estranged parents when she goes back to India and the complicated past they left behind. That sounds pretty good. I'm actually kind of into that. Okay, so we have a romantic comedy, The Paid Bridesmaid. So I feel like this is going to center around a wedding, and I'm not super into reading things that are centered around weddings. I find it kind of taxing. Last month I read the guest list, and the entire book was centered at a wedding, and I hated it. I usually gravitate towards the romances, but since this seems like it's gonna be a wedding book, probably. Okay, well, let's see what it's about. The Paid Bridesmaid in particular whisked me off to a lavish destination wedding in Hawaii, where professional bridesmaid Rachel Vinson is about to meet the man of her dreams. At a wedding, she's supposed to be working, of course, and her job requires organization, a high capacity for calmness in the face of chaos, and above all, discretion. This kind of she's a paid bridesmaid. It kind of makes me think of, what is it, 17 dresses with Katherine Heigl, where she's has like a ton of friends and she's always been a bridesmaid, but never the bride. So now is not the time to get warm and fuzzy feelings for the devastatingly dashing groomsmen. The focus should be on the bride, a hugely popular Instagram influencer who is sharing every lovingly curated detail of her happily ever after with her followers. That sounds kind of annoying, which means that if Rachel messes up, it'll be broadcast for everyone to see. But is it possible to be a perfect paid bridesmaid, wrangling an unruly mother of the bride, a week's worth of elaborate wedding activities, and dozens of cranky peacocks, all while falling in love? She's a paid bridesmaid, but she's also kind of the wedding planner, because she's having to deal with all the stuff the wedding planner would do, which is like the wedding activities and stuff. I feel like I'm just down on this one because it takes place at a wedding and the guest list was so taxing. Ooh, a lot more people have rated this one already. 306 people at 4.26, which is pretty good. Okay, so Rachel Vinson is a bridesmaid for hire, part confidant, okay, so she is a part wedding planner, that makes sense. And 100% pretend BFF. The love interest is high-tech entrepreneur Camden Lewis. Who is this gorgeous, intelligent, and mysterious woman? Too good to be real. Convinced she's a corporate spy out to tank his company, Camden's not letting her out of his sight, but the constant surveillance is also opening his eyes to things about Rachel that he likes. If she's a spy, she's certainly the cutest one he's ever seen. As the week's worth of wedding events march along, Rachel and Camden are learning almost everything there is to know about each other. Rachel's made a career out of always being a bridesmaid, but perhaps there's a chance her own trip down the aisle. Yeah, I don't know. It sounds a little corny for my taste. We have a memoir by Maya Washington. Okay, if you are inspired by films like Remember the Titans and The Blind Side, then you'll likely find yourself loving Maya Washington's memoir about her father's legacy in the world of American football. Okay, so Maya grew up knowing that her father, Gene Washington, had been a star college athlete at Michigan State University and a professional football player for the Minnesota Vikings. It wasn't until she began having candid conversations with her father and his former teammates that she discovered how they broke racial barriers in the 1960s and ultimately changed the game forever. So I kind of do love that she kind of talked to her dad and his teammates and everything, and kind of learned more about his past and everything. I do find it really interesting, the more you talk to your parents, as you get older, the more you realize you just don't know who they are. You see them as a parent, but you don't really see them as an individual. So I actually kind of love that. It only has 10 ratings. Not very many people have rated this one yet. 4.4 though, that's pretty good. A warm and invigorating memoir about a daughter's love for her father and her appreciation for how he and others changed the game of football forever. I feel if I was more into sports, then I would be interested in this one, but I don't like sports. Maya retraces her father's journey from the segregated South to Michigan State during the peak of the civil rights movement and his journey as an NFL pioneer after the 1967 draft. She reflects on how her father's childhood and the racism he faced shaped her upbringing and influenced his expectations of her. She also discovers how unbreakable the emotional bond between teammates can be. So I actually do think that this sounds really good. Especially if you know who he is. If you're a football fan, I think this would actually be a really, really good book. For me, I don't really like football, but it does sound actually really well done. Okay, so then Amazon First Reads always has a children's picture book if you don't have any of the novels that you want. But this one is My Grandma's Photos. What if we could travel through the memories of someone's life? Allie gets to witness just that in My Grandma's Photos as he takes a journey with his grandmother through her memories. So I like that this is kind of the memoir where you're learning that oh, this is grandma, but she also had this entire life before she was grandma. So that actually sounds really sweet. Okay, so I have to pick which one I want. I feel the one that intrigued me the most was probably the book club fiction, The Taste of Ginger. I'm super into her kind of having to go back to India and discovering her roots and kind of seeing this through her eyes and everything. So I'm pretty into that. I'm going to pick that one and I hope it's good, and I'm actually looking forward to it. So let me know which Amazon First Reads book you picked in the comments below. Thanks for watching today's video, and we'll see you next time. Bye!